Spiritual Living Leesburg. The theme for this year is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And this month, our focus is Holy, Holy Uprising. The title of our talk today is Say Their Names, given by our fabulous spiritual director, Charlene Banks. We're so glad that you joined us here today. We invite you to get comfortable and relax into this moment as we begin our service. Please join us as we create our sacred space. We set our intentions of deepening into our awareness and practice of our 5 pillars of spiritual living by lighting this candle in our virtual world. Our first pillar is sacred study, represented by the divine quality of truth. We use this pillar to recognize the importance of an open mind and the power of our minds. The second pillar is affirmative prayer, represented by the divine quality power. This pillar honors the power of prayer in our daily lives. Our third pillar is meditation and the divine quality of peace. This pillar reminds us of the importance of meditation and the peace we feel when we quiet our minds. The fourth pillar is circulation and the divine quality of life. We know that the great law of circulation works in our lives. As we give, so shall we receive. And the fifth pillar is sacred service and the divine quality of love. This pillar affirms our call to be of service to our world as we see through the eyes of love. Let us close our eyes as we bless this sacred space and our time together. As we weave each of these pillars of spiritual living into our service today, may they deepen our own spiritual practices of study, prayer, meditation, circulation, and service, expanding our minds and our hearts to the 5 divine qualities of truth, power, peace, life, and love. We also bless everyone who made our service possible today and everyone in attendance. May the energy of love that is generated here bless everyone abundantly. And so it is. Please feel free to add to the chat or in the comments section any prayer requests or celebrations that you would like to have included later in our service when we provide our affirmative prayer, which is also known as a spiritual mind treatment. And now we move into our time of meditation with Charlene.
Thank you, Tamara. It's beautiful. I do appreciate your welcoming us all in such a sweet way. You're just so sweet. And congratulations on passing your practitioner exam. We're so proud. Yes. So, welcome into the room. Just take a nice deep breath, centering ourselves into this moment. And so I thought I might try a little different music here. Let's see how this goes. And so I invite you to just simply close your eyes or just keep your eyes closed and just allow your breath to breathe you without any effort. Just allowing life to be life as you right here, right now, on this planet. Just settling in, relaxing the body. Unclenching anything that is clenched. And just breathe. Now, in your mind's eye, I would like you to call forth any individual who has shaped the way you see the world in a positive way. This person is no longer living on the planet, but they're living within your heart. It may be a grandparent who's shown you unconditional love. It may be a parent who just lit up every time you entered into the room. Or they may be a teacher who saw the brilliant potential in you and nurtured it. It may be a spiritual teacher who taught you how to find within yourself the sacred. So I want you to hold the face of this individual in your mind's eye, and slowly within your mind whisper their name. It doesn't have to be their full name, just their first name. Anything that when you name that individual, you call forth their essence. Feel the love radiate from the center of your being. Allow the warmth of the light of love to just hold you. And just rest there and breathe. And if you feel comfortable, I invite you to slowly roll your neck slowly in a counterclockwise position to just metabolize that loved movement to anchor that feeling. Feeling that in our musculoskeletal self. And then the other way. Just really stretching your neck, releasing any tightness, ensuring that your shoulders are down and there's space between your ear and your shoulder. Just stretching. For this is what just really grounds us and centers us in the now. And it relaxes and it calls forth our presence in this very meeting of the souls. So if you're comfortable, you may stop rolling your neck and just simply bring your awareness back into this room. Slowly open your eyes with the newfound softened gaze of appreciation of all that is around you, of all that is your life. And we'll listen to Leah.
When I rise, I will rise like a bird, joyfully. And when I fall, I will fall like a leaf, gracefully. When I rise, I will rise like a bird, joyfully. And when I fall, I will fall like a leaf, gracefully.
You know, I like to hear that one more time. Let's go.
When I rise, I will rise like a bird, joyfully. And when I fall, I will fall like a leaf, gracefully. When I rise, I will rise like a bird, joyfully. And when I fall, I will fall like a leaf, gracefully.
Beautiful. So, yeah, something about when I stop sharing, it shares all of you guys too. So, welcome. I love the lyrics. When I rise, I will rise joyfully. And when I fall, I will fall gracefully. It's just, that has something, it just hits me right here. And so this talk for today is say their names. And it's what you think it's about, but it's more than that. So, and I love that our monthly theme for May is the Holy, Holy Uprising, because there are a couple of ways to rise up. And like Leah said, when I rise, I'll rise joyfully. That is how we rise. And it is a holy uprising that we shall do this. And we shall do this in every step, every place that we are called to be. And that's what this talk is about, but it has to do with names. Now, what is it about a name that is so important? Well, I'll start with our ancestors. And the reason I had you call forth in the meditation an ancestor, which does not have to be genetically It doesn't have to be that. It has to be anybody that contributed to who you are today, whether that's genetically or spiritually or psychologically or emotionally. However they helped you, they are part of your lineage. And by saying their name in your mind's eye and even out loud, what we do is we invoke that energy of that person who came and held us for whatever length of time they held us, and who had such a big impact on who we are today. So that is what a name is. A name is really a container for an individual. And every time we say that name, we invoke that individual's essence. In fact, the West African tradition is to not name their children until a good 7 to 14 days after they've been on the planet. And why is that? It is so that the elders in the community can get to know the Ori, what it is, the head. The Ori is the head. And the head is not just your physical head. The head is what gave birth to you from the other side. What did you come here to do? That is your Ori. And it doesn't pop out on day one, moment zero of emergence of the womb. It doesn't happen in the parents' minds as they think about, oh, that would look good on a license plate. No. The child in African culture arrives on this planet with a purpose and a method and a reason for being here, and that reason is spoken to the ancestors or to whoever is in the tribe using the divinatory. They figure out using means what that Ori is, and then there's a naming ceremony. My sister's on the line today. She had a naming ceremony for her first two boys at her house, and I remember coming there in Oakland, and I think I was 22. I'm driving up in whatever car I had at the time, bouncing in like, hey guys, what's going on? I had no idea what they were doing. Why don't you know that child's name? I thought. It's been a few days. You haven't named your child. That's just irresponsible, I thought. And she was so kind. To this day, I wonder why she didn't just smack me. But she's a loving older sister, so clearly she was patient. And what I observed in both of these ceremonies was the pouring of libation. And so now that I'm older and I've studied this on my own, I'm like, oh, got it. Well done, sis. What they do, they take a container, and in this gourd, they have some liquid. It could be milk. It could be a strong spirit like a wine or a clear liquor. It could be whatever, and I don't know what they had. She'll have to tell us. And then they pour it out in the name of the ancestors. They call forth the ancestors by name. So I am sure she called out Melchizedek and Luther, and she probably went up the chain, and so did her husband, who poured it out, and they kept pouring these libations in an offering and in a way to sort of call forth that essence that formed us. Because here we are, we've got these beautiful new souls who've joined the earth, and their names, they spoke the names of these children that had been divined by the elder in the community that knew what that child came here to do. And their names were amazing and hard to pronounce, and that's fine. And it was just awesome to watch. And now, how many years later, I'm not going to tell you how many, because then you can do the math and you'll know how old I am. But it's a lot of years later, and I get it. I totally get it. I'm so amazed that I was part of that ceremony. And since then, I've been part of other ceremonies that pour libations. And I'm now taking a class that is encouraging me to create my own altar, where I also have an altar of my ancestors, where I shall set it up, and I shall pick a stick, my ancestral stick, from the woods, with permission from my ancestors. And I come with such reverence to this process, because it is who I am genetically, but I forgot. Why did I forget? I think that 400 years of enslavement, being placed on a vessel without, these are my ancestors, without my will, and being chained, being brought over as, chattel and being forced to work the land, and, removing our tongues when we spoke our names. And when we spoke the names of our ancestors, they took our tongues out so we couldn't speak that. So of course I forgot. But guess what didn't forget? My DNA didn't forget. My DNA knows. I remember. Because when I look and read, and when I traveled to West Africa, part of me knew. It's amazing that there's a knowledge in our bodies. We know. Now, I'm speaking about me. Of course I'm speaking about me. But what is your ancestral truth? How did your ancestors bring you to where you are today? Some of you have come through the other atrocity, known as the Holocaust. And there are names that you need to speak. And others of you have come through other atrocities. I mean, there are many. We have many to pick from with this, with where we are in this world. And so I'm not saying that your ancestry is not awesome if it's not African. No. Whatever it is awesome. And I'm encouraging you guys to step into whatever that is. Own that and sort of vibrate with the positive ancestral connections, the lineage that you hold in your body right now. Because it shall continue through you and through your descendants. And if you study a lot, there are ways to heal in both directions. You can heal up the ancestral chain and down to future descendants. It is all energy, and everything is present right here and right now. Now, the second type of lineage is spiritual. And when we come to our spiritual awareness, we come to a spiritual awakening, there are names that are spoken. And so for those type of names, we have this quote by Thomas Troward. Let me go ahead and share that. Thomas Troward. The Bible calls the divine being by a variety of names. But when we have once got the general clue to the sacred name, we shall find that each of them implies all the others, since each suggests some particular aspect of that which is the all-embracing unit, the everlasting one, which cannot be divided, and any one aspect of which therefore convey to the instructed mind the suggestion of all the others. We call it Jesus, we call it Muhammad, we call it Buddha, we call it I am. We can go even further back. We invoke the names of Isis and Osiris, and we look at all of the different ways in which we have named the divine being. And when we name one of them, we're naming all of them because it is all one. However it speaks to us is what we can embrace, and that is our attachment to the one. That's what we recognize internally as the one. And there is no other. There's only the one. And so that's exciting, and that's new, and that's amazing, because people would have you believe that there is other, and that some people's approach is, evil, or they'll call it voodoo and make it bad. No. When we invoke that divine essence, that is the one. And that is the divine being that goes by many names. Emma Curtis Hopkins, this is, and speaking of spiritual lineage, our founder, Ernest Holmes, studied under Thomas Troward and Emma Curtis Hopkins. So that's the lineage of spirituality that I'm pulling from. And I, Charlene, don't have to be limited to just the one. Just the science of mind, new thought lineage, because the truth of the matter is that we all can reach from any tradition that speaks to us, and we have the ability to include it because it is all the one. So, Emma Curtis Hopkins, in my name, preach the gospel. In my name, heal the sick. If a man keeps my sayings, he will never see death. Well, what name was that which Jesus Christ used, which had such omnipotent energy that even when it was spoken, it would heal the sick and raise the dead? What name is that? The name is within every mind. And I'll tell you what the name is. It's I am. I am is the name. And isn't it within every mind? Every mind says I am. So let me allow people in the room here. They're waiting. All right, so let's go back to let's talk now. So if you have an ancestral lineage, and it is how you got here through DNA and through the people who raised you, the people that loved you, the people that taught you and fed you and held you. You also have a spiritual lineage. How did you get to right where you are right now in your spiritual development? Who wrote that book? Who said those words? Who really reached in your soul and said, boop, and touched your heart? Who is that? That is your spiritual lineage. And so we know that when we speak those names of those people, we invoke all the knowledge and the presence that they had when we first started embracing our new spirituality. And now we'll go to the third type of lineage, and that's going to have to do with our social presence. How do we show up in the world? What do we do with it? I mean, the first one, yeah, you got here. You didn't choose to get here. You kind of chose it, but you didn't realize you chose it. And then you're here on the planet and you're awakening. You're awakening because of your spiritual lineage, and you're learning from people who vibrate and resonate with you. What do you do with it? Let's talk about that. That's really important. So here, we'll go back into share mode, because Ernest Holmes, in his couple last lectures, the Beverly Hills lectures, said this: our movement will depend not on a talk such as I'm giving you now. Our evolution, what it will mean to the world, will not depend on the books we write. It will depend on what we do with it. It will depend on someone knowing enough about it to cause something to happen because of what he knows. When he wants it to happen, where he wants it to happen, in a way it ought to happen, according to his own volition. And now we're going to say his and her in our minds, because, right? In a way that it ought to happen according to his or her own volition. As long as you're not subject to anything whimsical or capricious, sure. But what he's saying here is that it's not enough to just study the science of mind, new thought, principle, ancient wisdom and principle. It's not enough to just study that. Because you know what? We have to show up in the world. And we have to do that thing that we're studying. We have to show up in the world, make a choice with our minds, and then move the needle. Let's talk about social justice then. Because when we hear say their names, you normally and probably immediately think about the Black Lives Matter movement. And if not, I'll just remind you. I'm sure you're thinking that, but hey, you might not be. So now, say their names is an actual movement, and I took some notes. So officially, it's a social movement to raise awareness for all the Black victims of racial inequality around the world. This movement is in support of the overall Black Lives Matter movement and aims to highlight individuals affected by anti-Black violence. Say Their Names is a movement that calls attention and demands justice for all victims. Now let's go into this a little more, because I know that we just talked about your ancestral lineage and how you got here and who your ancestors are. And I spoke to you about how I forgot, and I forgot because as Black people in America, we're not encouraged to remember who we are. In fact, I remember coming up, Black History Month had just been instantiated, and I remember learning about like 3 or 4 major Black people, and that was it. And I was like, And I think what really bugged me, it's not the limited number of, because later on I found out there were tons of Black people that did lots of great things, but they never got the credit, right? Like the guy that created the stoplight, the red, green, yellow, that was a Black guy. Nobody ever told us that. I wonder why. The guy that figured out that America, whether that's good or bad, but, the navigator for Christopher Columbus, so-called black person. There's so many ways in which our true lineage has been taken away so that we had to think that we weren't anything. We were nothing. We didn't come from anything. And, if you did, we're going to hush that down. Even today, there are times when someone mentions something great, and then I see a picture, and I'm like, well, why didn't you say they were black? You would have said they were black if they committed a crime. You'd have had no problem calling out their blackness if they committed a crime. But here I find out that the woman who created the vaccine for the COVID-19 is black, and y'all just now telling me? I was a little bit pissed off about that, but it's yet another point. It's yet another, indicator. There's a lot of indicators of what we're talking about here. So what we don't want to do is sit back and watch as someone is roughed up or killed by the police and then just sit there and watch. And then when it's talked about on the news, to not say their name, which takes away their dignity, and just calls them a black person who, and the shrug, the mental shrug, oh, they probably did something bad. Now, I have to admit, I grew up in respectability household where I was taught, if you look right, sound right, act right, you're not going to get messed with. And yet recently, lots and lots and lots of these black people, all they did was show up with brown skin, and they got killed for just being black. And so even the respectability black people are now waking up. This is our job. We're all waking up. And I know my white friends, you guys are waking up, and you're helping me understand some things. We're all waking up together. It's not cool. This is not good. And I did say, thank God for COVID, a couple of days ago in one of my other classes, and I didn't want to offend anyone whose family died because of COVID. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's good they died. No way. What I'm saying is, COVID-19 caused a lot of things to happen. And with that cascading set of dominoes, you ended up with the George Floyd murder being caught on video. Not just any video, on a cell phone video that had thank God for the teen who just held it straight and held that man's, just held it and filmed it for all the duration of this atrocity and then posted it on Facebook. And then, thank God that people had time. They were home. They had nothing else to do. And then they watched. Because what happened there was, okay, you cannot get this out of your mind. There's no way that he deserved that. There's no way. And any of us that have told ourselves, well, he's probably a criminal. He probably wasn't doing the right thing. He probably would. No, there's nothing he did to deserve that. And so we all finally, those items coalesced into this new movement where everyone, I watched as you guys, and I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful that white people all over the world got out of their homes in the midst of a pandemic. They put on their masks and they made those signs and they marched. There were people, I'm still getting goosebumps as I talk about it now. It's amazing how the movement, like literal movement of people's bodies from the couch into the street created awareness. And then the say their names part of it, where these were individuals. These people had husbands, wives, fathers, daughters. They had family members that loved them. And they did not deserve to be brutally killed. They just didn't, especially at the hands of the police. It's just ridiculous. How is that still happening? And we've been sweeping it under the rug, making excuses. We've been busy. We've blamed the victim most of the time, and just, there's no excuse. And now we know. And now we get to do something. Ernest Holmes said, it'll depend on what you do with it. Get up, get out there, get that sign up. And you guys already did it, so I'm speaking to the choir here. But the point is that now we have some actual movement. And look, the court of law, we were all waiting. We were like, oh gosh. I know for me, I was like, they've had video before Rodney King. They've had, I was waiting for it just to be terrible, and then it wasn't terrible. It was actually great that dude got convicted. And I don't have to say his name because I don't care. But I will say the names of the victims because they didn't deserve it. But let not their deaths be in vain. Let's know who they are, and let's say those names out loud. And actually, there's no way you're going to be able to say them all. I went online yesterday, and I found a site that had all the names of all the victims. Do you know that it took 9 pages of a Word document? 9 pages, single-spaced. And I think there are 270 on the list. There's just way too many. It has what date, what age they were when they were killed at the hands of the police. Some of them were injured, so it says injured. And I was like, okay, we're going to do a thing where we say all their names. We cannot say all their names. It's impossible. And there are some high-profile names that we can say, but, it's still just a drop in the bucket. And what I really want is for us to not have so many names to say in the future. Just not have so many. I mean, will tragedy happen? Yes. But can we do things? Yes, absolutely. So before I play for you my final video, I want to read to you a couple of quotes from different people who work in education. So this one from Jamila Pitts. She's a writer, a teacher, an educational consultant. As educators, we sometimes unknowingly step into the roles of advocate, of caretaker, of guide, even as mother and father to our students. Now, my teachers in the room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Students pay attention to everything we say and do. They particularly pay attention to our silence. Many Black and brown students are educated in school systems and classrooms where they, despite making up the racial majority, are taught how to understand a world comprised of a powerful minority. When their teachers choose to remain silent about moments of racial tension and violence, violence that may well touch students' own communities or families, these children are overtly reminded of their inferior place in society. When we don't say their names, they feel they don't matter. And this one teacher, as a Black teacher, I have to set a tone for my students that signals it's safe to talk about race. Even with me, students of color are afraid to say the word white or to name a blatant racism or the blatant, slavery atrocity and Jim Crow. If that's the case, imagine how much more difficult it is for them to engage in dialogue about mass incarceration rates, militarism of police, the killing of innocent Black men and women, the cycles of poverty, the destruction of our bodies, our minds, and our souls, the lack of access to healthy food and quality schools, and gentrification. These are all symptoms of a type of racism that remains deadly to this day. Because despite bodies lying in the street, we refuse to talk about it. So CSL, we're not scared to talk about it. I mean, we were raised by Reverend Sunday, and she could go in. I mean, this woman, she has such an awareness of what racism is, how it has affected our communities, how it's embedded in the bedrock of many of our institutions. And when we say the names of these oppressors and have their statues up and name the streets after them, those things need to come down. And she would very often go in on her talks because she's passionate about it. And I love that she doesn't look like she would be passionate about that. I love that she's this blonde woman with blue eyes who seems sweet, but don't try her. Don't get her started. She'll read everyone for filth if they come at her with any sort of racism. And so I love that there are so many people in our movement at CSL that get it, that aren't afraid to talk about it, because when we keep silent about it, What's the holy, holy uprising? That's not what that is. That's not uprising. That's settling in and just staying dead. And so what we're doing as a community, whatever way we are called to do so, we will rise up, bringing this teaching into whatever way, according to our own volition, bringing it into action. And so that's what's really great. So I've prepared for you a video with all the names that I found online. There's so many of them. And Leah has provided some background music as the names scroll. And so the names are going to scroll pretty fast. Just know that it goes in descending order from most recent-ish all the way back to 1968. And just keep an eye on the year. Keep an eye on the year. You'll see the name of the person and then the year and then what age they were killed. Okay? And I kept killed in there because they were killed at the hands of police. All right? And then we'll go after this music, I'll go right into prayer and then we'll lighten it up. Okay. As we bring it in, I invite you to just take that into your heart, whatever it is you're feeling. Just know that God is right here, right now. God, the universe, life, the creator of all that is, has never left us. It is living, it is moving, it is having its beingness in us, as us. We are one with this divine. We couldn't be a part of it. We couldn't be separate from it, is what I mean. It is in and through and as us and around us and is us and the very fabric of life itself is God. So that means that's true. It's true for every being on this planet. Even the so-called perpetrators. Even the so-called racists. Even the so-called brutality or even that. Even there, that is God. There is no devil. There's no otherness. There's no external force that fights with God. God is all. And it is our awareness that we are one with the divine presence. That is what we come into today, knowing that we, each of us, we know the truth about our being. We know the power that we can wield. And when we are in alignment with what is good, with what is in harmony, what is for the best of all beings, when we are in harmony with love, our vibration, our force, our power is higher. We have a higher vibration. We are much more powerful. It has been shown that the energy of love is inordinate. It's multiple times more powerful than the energy of fear. It's as the light immediately dispels the darkness, not by fighting it, but just by being a higher frequency and a more powerful force. So we do not deny the darkness that shows up in individual human behavior. We do not deny it. We do not turn away from it. No, instead we stand in truth. We shine the light of love. And we stand in this truth, knowing that the light shall dispel the darkness, not by effort and not by force, but by power. And so every day we wake up, we step into our own name. Who are you? We name ourselves. We name ourselves. We call out who it is we are. We call upon our ancestors to remind us of who it is we are and what we came here to be. We came here to be the light, to shine the light. We then choose our actions from that standpoint, from that place of love. Some say, I won't move until I know that I walk in the love of God. If I move before I know that, I might not behave as if I walk in the love of God. So that is our task today. That is our challenge each and every day. We wake up, we give gratitude for being here on this planet and knowing that if we are here to do something amazing. So we get still and we know that we walk in the love and the light of God. And then we spring from that seat, from that meditative pose. We spring into life. And we make our choices based on that knowledge. We show up in the world being that behavior that knows that we are one. And that immediately shines the light to others that need it. And so I know this is true for me. And I know that this is the truth for each and every person in this room. And that our newly minted practitioners, Sonia and Tamara, they too know this truth, and that they too walk in the love and the light of God. They are the light, and they shine it so brightly wherever they go. Each and every one of us shines our light, and it is our job to clear out any cobwebs and to clear off any cloudiness until that light shines brightly. That is our work. We are committed to doing that as a community. We get to show up and we get to show out for God. And so I can't wait. I sit here in gratitude as I speak this word of knowing for each and every one of us. I also can't wait. I've got anticipation for all the good things that are coming through us. They're coming through us right now. I can't wait to see what it looks like. It is happening. So I release my word into the law, knowing that the law always says yes, always acts with the ideas that is impressed upon it. And I know that it is already done. So I simply release my word into the law, knowing it is so. I say, and so it is. Another way of saying that is Ashe. Ashe, Ashe. And so we are back in the room, and I invite Tamara to do her magic to go ahead and take us through the rest of the service. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Charlene. always inspired, always moved by what you share with us. And now, my friends, it's time to bless the donations that are shared today. At CSL Leesburg, we believe in the law of circulation, so we are a tithing community. The donations that are shared with our center bless everyone, those who give and those who receive. Your donation helps our center, our CSL home office, as well as organizations that support our vision for helping to create a world that works for everyone. Please look at our screen. There are so many ways to give. It's easy to find something that works for you. You can also go to our website, and there's information there on how you can donate. We thank you so much for your support. No matter how you are giving, please take it and place it over your heart. It might be physically or mentally, but place it there and join us in our affirmation of oneness. The presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact. Therefore, I'm a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. And it doesn't stop here today, folks. You can join us on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Join our wonderful Charlene Banks for Dream Study. And you can also join us on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock, where you'll meet with us for prayer and visioning. These offerings are just a few of the ways that we take what we receive and we continue to share. Please feel free to join us after the service as we share our pearls, those little nuggets from the service that spoke to your hearts and your minds. And if you're a visitor, please stay and introduce yourself. We'd love to have the opportunity to officially greet you. And as we end our sacred time together, let us once again place our hands over our hearts. Take a deep breath and just say, I am love. Now, point to someone near you or someone on the screen and just realize, yes, you right there, you are love too. It's all love.
All love.
Woo-woo! Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your day. If you can, hang around. We're going to share. And if not, see ya.